Scanning for audio.
Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, from the Tin Dog Podcast. Yes, welcome to a special Christmas story from the TDP. And yes, I will be talking about the end of time. But as I'm recording this a few days early, I can't review a show I've not seen, now can I? No, this is your special Christmas present. A short story and some messages from fellow podcasters at this wonderful and chilly time of year. Unless, of course, you're in Australia, when you can make up your own mind about your own weather. Oh, there's a robin at the window. Anyway, a short story. Not Doctor Who based. So if you're only listening to this for Doctor Who type things, I'll see you in a few days' time, when I'll be talking about the almost end of Doctor 10. But until then, if you're still with me, Raining Cats and Dogs. I swear to you, this is the truth. Maybe. The fact that my story starts late in the afternoon on a week where the rain had been falling long enough to soak through your socks and put you in one hell of a mood. My own shoes had mostly dried out by the end of the lunchtime rush, and the small cubicle was populated by the usual bearded subjects. Carl and Siggy were half-heartedly playing chess in the usual booth. My boss, Fred, doesn't mind the old Jews playing quietly as long as they keep ordering coffee and keep their sex chat to a minimum. He's fine. My God, the things Siggy comes out with. He once told me about this young boy and a horse, enough to turn a girl's hair blue. Not that anyone has described me as a girl for years now, but I'm digressing. Next to the entrance was this truly ugly wooden hat stand that Fred had rescued from the barbers next door the day after they'd been evicted. Carl and Siggy's hats were aligned at a perfect parallel until a new customer strode in and shoved his dripping coat and Homburg onto the stand, knocking Siggy's to the ground. Luckily, Siggy was too engrossed examining his bishop to notice. I grabbed at the fallen hat and replaced it as I asked the newcomer, what'll it be? Standing long enough to gather himself, I watched him, almost silhouetted against the plate glass window. The grey street beyond splattered into distortion, condensation turning the world outside the colour of wet cement. He had the same haunted expression my sister Joyce had when her fiancé walked out on her a week before the wedding. This guy needed help, and he wasn't sure what kind. It was around now I noticed the odd-looking box under his arm. "You can leave that at the door," I said helpfully. "I'll keep it with me," replied the stranger, in a voice that could empty a room. Near the kitchen and the till was a chipped formica bar, complete with red, leather-covered stools. I never did ask Fred where he'd picked these up from. In fact, they had just appeared one morning. Makes me believe that I'd been a fool to inquire. Without further ado, he squelched his way to the back of the restaurant and slumped onto one of Fred's stools, while I poured him something strong and black. Silently, he took a pile of paper napkins and wiped his face before lifting the menu and scanning for today's specials. The onion soup is good today. Fred had told me to push the soup this week, as he had made far too much of the foul stuff. And like the good little waitress I am, I did what I was told. A drop of water worked its way along a rogue hair and splattered onto the counter. Behind me, the blue circular light flickered and buzzed as an out-of-season fly discovered if there truly was an afterlife. In the street outside, an unseen tram trundled past about its business. The bell above the door rang once more as Carl left out a moan, losing another piece to the grinning Siggy. Another man, another box. This box was different, softer, with a mesh window, and it looked like it could have had an animal inside. You haven't seen a cat, have you? Ginger thing. Mine's ran off. He took a deep breath, as if realizing how heavy the rain actually was. A brief smile. Hey, is that onion soup? I've not eaten for hours. The man worked his sodden way to the counter and sat down next to the guy perusing the menu. How about a sandwich, I said to anyone with the courtesy to listen. The first guy looked up, as if I'd just said a magic word, and asked for a cheese number on rye. I told him we were right out of rye bread, but I'd see what I could do. The second guy had seemed so set on the soup, they headed into the kitchen to kick Fred into action. By the time I returned, the guys had sprung up a conversation. Dole didn't even get a look in. Okay, I'll go first, said the second guy with a smirk. What's in the box? Nothing, he mumbled into his mug, and then considered for a moment. Radioactive poison. What? I exclaimed, letting the usual waitress-punter relationship slip for a moment. It's all right. It's a tiny amount. Harmless. Now if you told me someone had a harmless amount of radioactive poison these days, I'd tell you straight. There's no such thing as a harmless amount of radiation. But this was decades ago, and I didn't know better. I did, however, ask him, how can it be harmless poison? Oxymoron, shouted Siggy, and let out another of his girly laughs, as Carl sacrificed another piece. The guys at the counter ignored the occupants of the booth and continued. It's a harmless amount unless... He trailed off. Look, it's easier if I show you. He lifted the suitcase-sized box onto the tabletop, released some metal catches, and removed one side. What I didn't expect to see was a puppy. Curled up in a ball of cuteness was one of the tiniest puppies I'd ever clapped eyes on. It must have been no more than a day or two old. You shouldn't take them from their mothers when they're that young, you know? The other guy said, and I agreed. Oh, that's the least of my problems. Here, let me show you. Flicking more metal catches, he revealed the inside of a sealed compartment at the top of the box. A combination of extremely small bottle, a hammer placed precariously above, a spring and wires leading in and out of a smaller box. And this smaller box was clicking at an alarming rate. He started pointing at various parts and described what I can only call his torture device. It's to prove a theory. What theory? If you can kill a puppy or not? I whispered, feeling more than a little uncomfortable. No, you don't understand, he began, defending himself. I may or may not kill this dog. The other guy was clearly on my side. What are you going to do? Toss a coin or something? No, it won't be my choice. I'm trying to prove how ridiculous the standard vision of quantum physics is. You lost me at killing a puppy, I said, meeting his gaze with a gaze of my own, made of surprisingly high-quality steel. There was no stopping now he had started. Standard theory says that until someone looks inside the box, the possibility of the dog being alive and dead are equally likely, because the animal is locked into the box with a 50-50 chance of this radiation detector, he pointed at the clicking box, breaking this bottle of poison. Or not breaking the bottle. The other guy joined in, intrigued and horrified. So, the guy with the open box continued, we have a superimposition of states. The dog is as likely to be as alive as dead. And until we open the box, we don't know if it's alive or dead. So logically, it's both alive and dead. That's clearly loopy thinking. I was having none of it from this homicidal puppy killer. Fast asleep, the tiny dog flipped its tail as we talked. Wouldn't you hear the bottle break? Then you would know if it was dead or not, was all I could bring myself to say. Can't you see? This is where a workable theory of a multiverse comes from. It was clear he wasn't going to let this go. What are you, some kind of magician? Is this part of your act? I hoped. No, I'm a scientist, he declared. As if that would explain everything. Irwin I stopped him dead. Look, Irwin. That looks very much like a machine for killing puppies, and we don't serve sickos like you. I think you better leave. I grabbed the puppy and take your death box with you. Like a spoiled child, Erwin snapped the box closed, started mumbling something about using the other guy's missing cat instead, and headed out of the door and into the rain, stopping only to take his hat and coat. God, some guys are just sick in the head. A joint, "Thank God," followed by a peal of laughter, came from the booth. I stared at the sleeping puppy in my hands. "What are we going to do with you?" "Well, I could take him," offered the remaining customer with a shrug. "I can't see my cat coming back." Fred slid the soup and sandwich to the serving hatch and slapped the top of the service bell. In my palm, the puppy sprang into life, blindly licking at my thumb. "That's exactly what I'm trying to prove," said the remaining customer with a wide grin. "God, you're not a scientist too, are you?" I asked dejectedly. "Yes, but I really look after my animals." Lifting his empty animal container onto the table and knocking the remainder of his coffee to one side. Gently I placed the bundle of cuteness inside. "I always like to feed them when the church bell rings. Oh, by the way, my name's Ivan. Ivan Pavlov. Pleased to meet you." True story. Maybe. And I hope you enjoyed that little story of mine. A small little Christmas present to each and every one of you, my listeners. Here are some messages from some other podcasts.
Hello, I'm Joe from the Flashing Blade podcast.
Hello, I'm Tony from the Flashing Blade podcast.
And we'd like to wish everyone at the
Insert name of podcast now.
a happy Christmas to all of you at home.
Oh, yes, we got the cliche in. The cliche is there. Oh, and I suppose something about peaceful New Year, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And don't forget, you can, of course, always listen to us on the Flashing Blade podcast at www.flashingblade.org.uk.
Ooh, it's exciting.
Is it?
Yes. Oh, yes.
You haven't heard it. Ta-ta then. Have a nice time. Not too much turkey now.
Oh, bye.
Toodles.
Arriba!
Hello, Luke here from the Minute Doctor Who podcast.
And I am the Cyberlinger from episode 8 of the Minute Doctor Who podcast.
We'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, this Christmas will be a triumph for the cyber race as we invade Earth, and in the new year many of you listeners will be converted into Cybermen. My colleague has informed me that our plans will come to nothing due to an unfortunate conjunction of the Nemesis statue and Voga, the planet of gold.
So once again, have a wonderful holiday, and if you want to get hold of the backing track from this promo and help keep the X Factor off Christmas #1, then please visit zangproductions.co.uk.
Excellent.
Stars at night shining bright like they always do. Christmas time, Christmas time is here again. Bells will ring, Christmas time is here again.
Have yourself a
Ho, 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 ho.
merry
Ho,
little
ho, 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 ho. Hello to yourself and to the listeners of insert podcast name here.
Your favouriteest ever, the bestest one.
You may have heard rumours elsewhere that we have other favourites, but just between you and me, you're our favourite. Don't tell anyone.
We don't
we
want
love
to
you.
cause any jealousy.
We love you, mate, or gal, or whatever you might be. Oh, we're only
joking.
kicking. April Fool. We love you, Teddy. You've always been a supporter of the show. We love you to bits, and we hope we can continue to have you on board for next year's shows because, believe it or not, it's not a WhoCast without having Tinny somewhere in the mix.
Absolutely damn straight. You are awesomeness in a can, and I like opening that can on a regular basis. Thanks, Tinny. You've been an absolute star this year, and absolutely wonderful. And thanks for the DVDs.
This is Trevor.
And this is Marty.
And on behalf of the DWO WhoCast, I want to wish yourself and all your listeners a Merry Christmas and a bountiful and happy New Year. And we look forward to hearing more of your episodes in 2010.
Absolutely, certainly. Have a good one.
And have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Hi, this is Ian, the Sixth Doctor.
Hi, this is Dave AC.
From the Cultum Collective podcast.
Yes, we collectively like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all our podcasters and listeners to your podcasters and your listeners.
What? Hang on, Dave. You're telling me there's other podcasts? Next you'll be telling me there's no Santa Claus.
Oh, come on. I know you secretly listen to these other ones. I know I do.
I know, but none of them have wine.
Ooh, wine. Lovely. Time for another glass.
Yep. Cheers, Dave.
Cheers, Ian.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And a Happy New Year.
So until I speak to you very shortly about the end of time, be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.